Hi guys, welcome back to the Anfield View. It's Paul here. Hope you're all keeping well. Hope you're enjoying the World Cup. Had a little bit of a break. Enjoyed the World Cup for the last 3 to 5 days or so. Time to kick in with some Liverpool updates for you guys. Let's get back to the main emphasis of the channel after a little bit of a slight sort of deviance across to really sort of focus a little bit on the World Cup. Yes, you've heard it. The Diomande sort of fallout. No. Did he turn us down? Were we really ever in with a chance? Let's unpack this now, guys. As you know, as you heard it here first, literally about a month ago, that I put up on the channel for you guys. No crazy sort of insight from me, but just reporting the reality of the situation. Look, about a month ago, it was very clear and it was made widely known, which people sort of picked up on, but didn't really because they just, for whatever reason, they had their own narratives. Look, from very early on, it's been widely known that Jan Diermei's preference, if he was to move from Leipzig, was always going to be PSG. There's been no ifs, buts, or maybes on that. It's been pretty what it's been out there. It's been out there a while. For some, I don't know whether people just thought like he changed his mind or there's been some sort of indicator that okay, that's his preference, but he's okay to come to Liverpool. I don't know, but the realities of the situation with Jan Diomede, it wasn't really that close. It reminds me a bit of a Casado scenario where his preference was to go to Chelsea, and yeah, sure, we got a bid accepted, but that didn't change the reality of really where he wanted to go. And then eventually it was just a case of Chelsea coming back in to match what we put down. And the situation with Jan Diomede, look, he had a preference to go to PSG from the very beginning. From the very beginning, you could raise the question, well, why would we even go in for him then, if his preference was always to go for to PSG? Look, ultimately, there's no guarantee that PSG were going to actually go forward with it, but then equally, it could well just be look, if you unpack it, it could be a situation that PSG have said, "We're coming in for you. We know you want to come to us. We want you. We're going to go and sell a player or two, and then there's room in the squad for you to come in." Like, he's not going to be a regular starter for them. The irony that he would obviously with us, but it's not going to be a regular start for them. But there's no point us all being silly. The realities are PSG are light years ahead of where we are at this moment in time. They're two times reigning Champions League champions. They're playing miles better than us. They obliterated us when we've played them. And sure, we hung in, but equally we haven't matched them, and we're not at their level. Even when we won the title, we weren't at their level. And so we just have to look at it from a reality perspective. Is that his preference was always on to go there, and he hasn't hit that fact. And so I'm a little bit miffed by the sort of surprise. Maybe it's the fact that everybody wanted it so much because we know the need is there, and maybe I think that generally is where it's all coming from, is the fact that there's a massive load of disappointment because it's, well, what's next? Well, ultimately, all roads lead to really two people for me. They lead to Barcola at PSG. We all knew that. Frankly, it was one of those where, in many ways, Barcola was more for the now, when you Demi was a little bit more for the future, albeit they're both young. To some extent, when you're spending 80, 90, 100 million, I would have preferred Barcola anyway. Mainly because he's just put more out there. He's got a lot more experience. He's a lot more proven. That's not saying Demi doesn't have a higher upside, but time will tell on that front. All roads really do lead to Barcola. Is it a question of the dominoes are starting to fall, i.e., Diomede was always going to go to PSG. He made it clear from a long time before Liverpool even made their interest clear in him that that's where he wanted to go. And PSG, now that they've got rid of Gonzalo Ramos, their striker up top, they now have the room in the squad. And they've always had the money, but they have the room in the squad to be able to then bring him in now. So that's pretty much all she wrote on that one. Was it worth Liverpool going in for him? Look, I respect the club for the ambition of going in for him. Sometimes when you're going after somebody who doesn't really want to play for you, but it's not like you're awful. It's more a question of they're just in a far better position than what we are. the reality is we're in a bit of a rebuild. They've got, look at PSG. They've got a better manager. They're two-time reigning champions. Their squad is ridiculous. They're going to be the favourites for the Champions League for at least the next 2 or 3 years. Whereas you look at Liverpool, we've got a I like Ariola, but ultimately, we have to be honest, he's unproven at Liverpool's level. And we all hope he's going to be a roaring success. But it's a big punt for somebody to choose us over PSG on the hope that maybe not this year, but the following year it's going to come good. Bear in mind, Verts chose us when we had already won the title, and as a relatively well-established squad at that point, and so realistically, it is all roads for me for Barcola. And then if Barcola's not an option, you go for Rayan. That's at Bournemouth. And if that's not an option, then you really are going to have to probably try and hoover up two wingers of around 30 to 40 million to try and hope that one of them really can really take the step up. Maybe go for Minter at Brighton, but then that's going to still cost you a hefty amount of money because they know we're desperate for a winger. And this is the situation that Liverpool are in at this current moment in time. We obviously have the new sign, and Muniz, thank God. Um, but equally, we still are Rio Muniz and a bit of Gakpo. And we all know Gakpo's not the solution on the wing. So we've got one in. We bare minimum need one more, and we really need one that's at Barclays level to really give us a bit more confidence that we've got enough. My general road of travel, as I say, I know I'm stating the obvious. We all knew Barclay, but I don't know if it was option A or B or both of them were option A. Look, for me, Barclay was option A, Diomande was option A minus in this window, and then option B was Rayan from on ultimately from that front. And so if we end up now that there's potentially room for them PSG to sell Barclay, there's going to be an absolute melee of people that are going to want to buy Barclay. So Liverpool are going to have to go some to get that one in as well. Am I confident? No, because there's going to be an insane amount of competition for Barclay. There's not that many great wingers out there, and so okay, strap yourself in, guys, because I couldn't, with any degree of confidence, say we're going to get Barclay because we're in a different position than what we were last time. And frankly, I didn't think we were going to get Verts, even though we're in a better position. And so we've got the money to do it. Can we get Barclay over the line? He's the obvious one, and if he's not the one, then it has to be Rayan. It's like they are the two options now. If we're looking at marquee wingers, really, you're looking at Barclay being the option by miles. So all boats go in on that one. And if we find out that's just not possible, and basically you know the direction of travel. You do on these deals. You know the direction of travel, and you need to really read the room on these things. And I do definitely think that if we get an indicator that Barclay's not going to have a chance of happening, then we have to move swift onto Raya and put the money down that required to get him through the door. Liverpool can't mess around. There just isn't enough. There isn't enough supply. There's a massive amount of demand with a supply shortage of decent players in a lot of positions. A lot of everything in life is about supply and demand. That's the reason we have ridiculous housing prices. But equally, in terms of football, it's a similar situation. Why are players worth X amount of money? It isn't because they're the best, 24,000 times better than midfielders of 10 years ago. It's because basically there isn't a huge amount of quality out there. All clubs at the top level would have to take a punt on players, and they just don't want to do that. Should Liverpool be spending a bit more time doing what Brighton and Bournemouth or Brentford do and actually buy somebody for 25 million before they're proven and then buy? Yes, I generally do think there's a merit every summer for Liverpool to be spending 25 million on somebody that's a little bit more of a punt to hope they can become the next star. Whilst we're also chasing the proven, but then Liverpool just don't. We don't invest. Put it this way, we don't invest enough money in terms of just having enough squad depth, let alone taking punts on things. It's not really what Liverpool do, and it's not a model we operate. We're a very simplistic beast in many ways. if we're going to spend the money, we're going to spend the money on somebody who's young with ridiculous amount of talent or who's incredibly proven. But we're not going to spend the money on somebody who may be very talented, but equally it's such a long way to go. We'll wait for him to reach the next sort of stop in the line when his price has gone up by like another 50 million when he's more proven. And basically, it's like it's risk management, isn't it? If we're going to spend X amount of money, we're we're comfortable with spending this amount of money when the risk factor is a lot less, but not when it's a lot more. And that's pretty much, I think, Liverpool model is, and a lot of people that invest a lot of money. It's the risk reward ratio essentially, isn't it? It's the risk reward ratio, it's the supply and demand. I forgot, I felt like I'm doing work on this one tonight, but it is the risk reward ratio, it's the supply and demand scenarios that come into effect in football as well. And so, as I say, guys, I'm not shocked. Called it a month ago. Do I wish I was wrong? Look, if you gave me an option, I would have taken Barcola over him anyway. That's not playing Monday morning quarterback. I did say it a long time ago before there were bombers and he's definitely going to sign and all these. This has been agreed and that's been agreed. My gut instincts, I did say hold the phone a little bit on this, guys. Like all this talk that it's nearly done. It's like, well, first of all, we were miles away on the fee. So the weird scenario is, we've nearly agreed terms with him. It's like, well, I'm pretty sure we haven't agreed terms with him, and we're miles away on the fee. And so on that basis, we're not really that close at all. We're just in talks, and so maybe because it's a light sort of news cycle on the sport because of not many transfers happening. Everyone seems to go overboard on what might be and realities of what will be and the direction of travel was like, I think we've just spent the last week. And to be honest, one of the reasons I didn't put a video up, guys, was purely for the fact that the last week has just been incessant, dimmy, dimmy, dimmy. Yet in reality, come back to me when the fee is even remotely close, and come back to me when he's actually come out and said he wants to join Liverpool ahead of PSG. Then I think you've got some mileage in what you're saying. But telling me it's definitely going to happen when he hasn't chosen over PSG, and essentially PSG are really are waiting in the wings to basically match our bid, and so it's almost a question of are they just sitting there waiting to see what the bid eventually reaches, and then just come in and match that, and not get involved in a price war when they know full well the player only wants to join them anyway. Feels a little bit like that to me, doesn't it? Really, guys. I felt like if we had a bid accepted by Leipzig, which we haven't, and we're not remotely close at the moment, so it's a great bid by us, but if we're not remotely close, if we had have had it accepted, I would have been 95% sure like PSG would have matched it and then make the player make the choice. And as I say, it's out in the public sort of ether, as it were, that he always wanted to join PSG, and so we can't be upset given where both clubs are at. We can't be really surprised given the fact that it's always been out there. It's always been out there. If people had been choosing to sort of ignore it or have blinkers on out of wishful thinking, nothing wrong with that. And I think that's really where we're at with that sort of potential deal. We move on. For me, it's Barcola. And if that can't happen, it's Rayan. And if that can't happen, it's maybe Minter at Brighton. And if that can't happen, when we really are in trouble on those fronts, Liverpool may face a situation where they're going to have to spend more money than they want on probably a player that isn't their top A+ target. Or in the Barcola case, they may have to spend more money than they want because there just isn't a supply of world-class wingers around. And if Liverpool want to really make a real fist of solving that situation, they're going to have to spend what's required, essentially. I do wish that Liverpool also would now spend as much time on the midfield. We badly need a defensive midfielder. I'd ideally like some sort of cover at centre back as well. Let's see how the next few weeks pan out, but let's hope the next 2 weeks isn't solely Barcola. We need to be really working Barcola, Rayan, and a central midfielder at that 24 hours a day, 7 days a week for the next 3 weeks. Once we've got one more winger and the defensive midfielder sorted, we haven't got that much urgent business to do. You're then looking at cover for certain positions and frankly hoping that you tie Rio to a new contract and you don't have to sell half the squad. That's where I sort of stand. I don't think there's massive amount for us to do. We just need to make sure we invest our time wisely and invest a lot of time and make sure that the midfield that also gets solved. And I'm hoping that this isn't the situation where we're waiting for McAllister to leave before we buy a defensive midfielder, or we're waiting for Jones to maybe leave before we buy a defensive midfielder. If McAllister stays and Jones stays, it doesn't alter the fact that Liverpool badly need a defensive midfielder. That's just plain fact. It is what it is. They may well have a preference to have a one in, one out, as in McAllister goes out, we get his fee, we spend that on defensive midfielder. Wonderful. But in reality, you need to get the player first and then worry about that element. We're not there is not that many great defensive midfielders either that are out there. We've just seen Alec Anderson go for a crazy fee to Man City, but the bottom line is they had a need, they got him. They'll probably end up flipping Rodri even now or next summer to recoup most of that back. Same thing with Liverpool. Go out, get your midfielder, then flip McAllister either this summer or whenever you're going to do it, to recover that fee. That's what you need to do. Let's get it done. All right, guys. So we move and groove, as we say, guys. We carry on. We move forward. Let's get in on Barker. If we can't get in, let's get in Rayan. Let's get that sorted. Let's focus on the midfield. Let's not spend the next 3.5 weeks on one deal. We need to be working that deal. The central midfielder deal as well needs a hefty amount of effort and solving. And then let's work on some cheaper alternative backup buys for the right back and the centre back position. There we go, guys. Hope you enjoyed that. We're back with a little bit of Liverpool news. Wish it was great news for you guys. It's not a huge surprise, but I felt like, look, I've got to really address the Diomande element. But it is what it is. We move on. For me, Barcola was my preference anyway. So if this equals Barcola at the end, nothing's really changed. But let's not get sidetracked spending 1 month now on Barcola. Let's get Barcola done. Or if we can't get him done, let's acknowledge. Let's really have some awareness about where we're at in that room. Let's read the room. Is it likely to happen? No. Move on, get Rayan. Yeah, let's not spend a month on Barcola and then realise we haven't actually got a chance anyway. And that point, we haven't got Rayan and we haven't got the midfielder sorted. If Barcola's going to take it a few weeks, then get the midfielder sorted whilst we're trying to sort that out. This is where you've got to be smart. So if we're trying to get him, then go and get the midfielder that we also need whilst we're waiting to get the other one through the door. At least solve some of the other problems whilst we're also trying to solve that big problem as well. But great to hear your thoughts, guys. Feel free to like, subscribe, all that jazz. And great to hear your comments as well. Anyone in the World Cup that you think we should buy that I've not really addressed? I'm all for the Moroccan midfielder. Works for me. All for Scott Bournemouth as well, but I do believe the fees is pretty crazy on that front as well. So, yeah, have a great evening, guys. Speak to you more soon. You take care.